In 2010, representatives from from Carlisle Infrastructure Partners and Mountain Water came to my office to tell me that the water system that had long been held by a sole owner, a gentleman by the name of Sam Wheeler, had been sold to the Carlisle Group, and they were hoping for my support before the Montana Public Service Commission to transfer ownership. While they were purchasing Mountain Water in Missoula, Montana, they were also purchasing two systems in California, one in Apple Valley and one nearby in the greater Los Angeles area, all operated under a holding company called Park Water. Robert Dove is the managing partner of the Carlisle Infrastructure Group. Mr. Dove and I struck up a relationship, and we began conversations around their request for my support. And the short version of that was, I said, I'll support it if you want to sell me the water company. And the fact of the matter was that they were very interested in selling the water company. Their interest lied in, I'm sorry, I'm being grammatical now. Their interest was in California, and that regulatory environment was much more conducive to their investment goals. So fundamentally, we struck a deal, and that deal was, I will support you in front of the Montana Public Service Commission, and as soon as the old owner, Sam Wheeler, rolls off your board, I will make you an offer to purchase this company, and we'll have a deal. And so we proceeded accordingly, and in 2014, based on financial information provided me by a team of folks we brought in to consult, and also by a team of staff members, we tossed a $65 million offer across the table. So Carlisle purchased Park Water for about $150 million. So if you generally divide that by 3, you think they paid around $50 for Mountain Water in Missoula, Montana, 28,000 connections, give or take. And so $65 million based on all of the analysis we had done, paid them a premium for whatever heartburn they may have experienced for holding this thing for 3 years. And remember, these guys came to our community and said, this is a long-term play. This is work that we do to accommodate investors who are looking for lower yields, less risk, and more time. We don't flip stuff in this case. So Carlisle's reputation is they buy stuff for $1, they sell it for $1.50, right? And in this case, Carlisle Infrastructure Partners maintained that this was not about flipping, this wasn't a short-term investment, this was about being in it for the long haul and taking care of customers. So I learned in fairly short order that A, they wanted to sell it, right? B, they promised to sell it to us, and C, when we made the offer, they wanted $120 million rather than $65 million, so we stepped away. Then we, recognizing that Montana statute allowed for us to take the company through eminent domain, specifically called out in Montana statute, we elected over long conversations to pursue that route. We needed to force this sale. We needed to own the company, and clearly the only way we're going to be able to do that was through eminent domain. Doesn't mean we steal it, doesn't mean they don't get paid for it, but it means we get it, right? That's eminent domain in the state of Montana. So what we needed to do were two things. One is prove necessity. You don't have to do that here, but in the state of Montana, a state that's very interested in private property rights, we had to go before a district court judge and over the course of a 3-week trial prove to her that it was more necessary for the city of Missoula to own and operate this system than it was for the private company to do so. So what we needed to do was show that they weren't taking care of the system, they weren't taking care of customers, that over the long haul this was a transaction and not an investment, that this thing was going to get flipped, it was going to get flipped again, and in the end, consumers, citizens, human beings were not going to benefit from continued private ownership. So over the course of those 3 weeks, we put on our best evidence. Part of my team is here this evening: Harry Schneider, Tasha Jones, and Bruce Bender. Harry and Tasha are attorneys. They litigated this matter for us, and over the course of those 3 weeks prevailed. Judge Karen Townsend in Missoula, Montana said it was indeed more necessary for the public to own this system. It was indeed more necessary because of the evidence that we presented, and we were the better long-term owner. That decision was appealed to the Montana Supreme Court. Montana Supreme Court in August of this year upheld the lower court's decision in a 5-2 decision, and said that Judge Townsend indeed understood the evidence and her findings of fact and conclusions of law were absolutely accurate. The other piece of this is that once you demonstrate necessity, you also have to have a conversation about value. In the case of Missoula, the judge, with advice from plaintiff and defendant, seats a 3-member committee. Those folks get together and they, through evidence, make a determination of the value. So we pushed $65 million across the table. The commissioners came back with $88.6 million, and for all intents and purposes, for us, we were done and ready to go. There are lots of complications here. There are lots of pleadings, cross pleadings, etc. The short version is, while I don't have the keys today, we are utterly confident that we'll have the keys likely before the end of the year, and the system will be operated by the city of Missoula on behalf of the folks we serve. It has been certainly challenging. It has been time-consuming. It has been expensive, and it has been the absolute right thing to do. Fundamentally, when you have a monopoly, and this is what these systems are, and they are not well regulated, because in our experience, public service commissions do not have capacity to, or information, frankly, to regulate these systems well. They're cash cows for private operators, and these cash cows are neglected over time. What happens in the case of Missoula, Montana, for example, is that we have about $100 million worth of deferred maintenance. Here's the thing. Here's how much cash is in these things. Our models tell us that we can, by the company, service the debt, make $6 to $8 million worth of capital improvements every year over the next decade, have additional bonding capacity, and still not raise rates for at least 5 years, right? Things are cash cows, and that cash comes on the backs of folks just like you in my community, and we have the good fortune of not having a crisis. So, having spent a little time with you all, or y'all, if we get deeper south, apparently the plural of y'all is all y'all, is what I hear. So, what I have learned here is that you have had not one, but more than one crisis, that you have an operator who is engaged in the same activities that our folks have been engaged in, and that's deferring maintenance in preference of profit. Private utilities operate on a profit motive. It's a thing, right? I don't judge whether that's good or bad, but what I can tell you is that public ownership, because we are not operating on a cost-plus model, every nickel that comes into this system goes back into the system. It's either in the form of salaries for operators, the good people who are going to keep the system alive, or it goes back into pipes in the ground taking care of business. In the state of Montana, I can tell you that the water rates in Missoula are among the highest in the state, and that is a private water system. The rest of the water systems in the state are public. Our wastewater rates, and we have the most complicated system in the state, most likely in Missoula, Montana, and we've made tremendous investment in our wastewater facility. is proud to boast among the lowest rates for wastewater treatment in the state of Montana. That's the difference between public ownership and private ownership. The profit motive is gone, and the investment is all about taking care of the system in perpetuity. It doesn't always work. It doesn't work under every circumstance, but I tell you what, the fundamental stuff of life, water, should not be in the hands of investors from somewhere else who care not one bit about the people I serve.